Hello, I will be talking about Joan of Arc, her life, the context of the Hundred Years' War, her legacy worldwide, and her effect on both French and American culture. Who was Joan of Arc? Why is she important? Joan was born in 1412 at the start of the Lancastrian War, which is the third phase of the Hundred Years' War. She began hearing voices at 13. These voices she believed to be the voices of God, who told her to stand up for her country's right in the fight against the English to help instill Prince Charles as the rightful ruler of France. Joan's role in the military is noted as one of the primary turning points that led to the French victory over the English. The Hundred Years' War. A little context, it began with the Edwardian phase. The whole conflict came with the English belief that their leader should rule France. This can all be traced all the way back to William the Conqueror becoming the King of France, King of England. Because of this, his bloodline came down, and it looked like the English were able to rule France. Obviously, the French did not feel the same way, and they fought back. During the first phase, the Edwardian phase, the Black Death occurred. Many people died. It was not great. The French king was also captured, and the English got about 90% of French land. The French king being captured led to a civil war in France. The Burgundians versus the Armagnac. The Burgundians defected and fought with the English, while the Armagnacs remained loyal to France. The second phase, Caroline phase, the plague was still running rampant, and it was not good for either side. The French lost about half of their population, and the English lost about 33%. In this phase, France was shockingly able to reclaim most of its land despite losing half its population. The Lancastrian phase, when Joan lived, was the third and final one. The English capitalized on the French Civil War and their larger population loss comparatively, and decided to return to battle. Now, Joan's military service starts with the siege of Orleans. First, she had been hearing these voices and she had sought counsel with Prince Charles. Hearing from God, she was told she had to fight and make France whole again. There was a popular prophecy at the time detailing the Virgin who would save France. So, seeking counsel with Charles, she was sent away twice. But on the third time, she met with him, talked with him, told him some things that apparently only someone who spoke with God could tell him. And against the wishes of his advisors, he gave her an army and let her help lay siege to Orleans. Now, the city of Orleans had been besieged by the English for nearly 8 months. Once Joan got there, leading her army, she was able to break this siege within 8 days. Another one of Joan's crowning moments was her recapture of Reims. Reims was the city in which traditionally the king was coronated. So because they did not have rights to Reims, Prince Charles was not able to be coronated. Joan made sure that Reims was recaptured and that he could be coronated, and he actually was coronated with Joan kneeling at his feet. The last battle that I want to mention is Compiègne, in which Joan was captured and turned in to the English by the Burgundians. After her capture, Joan is put on trial for heresy. She was greatly feared by the English army for her supernatural powers that undermined morale. Really, they meant that she was a great public speaker and motivator. Big part of this trial was also to discredit the French King Charles, who owed his coronation to her, to try to kind of tie him in to someone who was accused of heresy and witchcraft. Because of this, Charles made really no attempt to barter for Joan's release and kind of just left it to die, something very disappointing of him. There were many inconsistencies in the trial. Joan was subjected to unusual proceedings. A couple of confessions were coerced out of her. Yeah, she was coerced under the threat of death, that she had never spoken with God and had made it all up. She was charged on 70 accounts, including heresy, witchcraft, and cross-dressing. Several days after Joan signed this declaration that she had never spoken with God and made it all up, she once again donned men's clothing, told the judges who visited her cell the voices were back, and she was sentenced to death as a relapsed heretic. Here's a quote from the court. We say and determine that you have falsely imagined revelations and divine apparitions, that you are a pernicious temptress, presumptuous, credulous, rash, superstitious, false prophetess, a blasphemer against God and his saints, scornful of God and his sacraments, a transgressor of divine law, sacred doctrine, and ecclesiastical decrees. I butchered that word, but that you have seditious, cruel, apostate, schismatic, straying in many ways from our faith, and that in these ways you have rashly sinned against God and his church. The rehabilitation trial. Oh, geez. She was executed, burned to death 2 days afterwards. The rehabilitation trial was held after Joan's family petitioned to Pope Calixtus III, King Charles VII, held another trial about 20 years later to clear Joan's name. Her legacy is a French symbol. She's now one of the most beloved symbols of France. There are 11 sculptures of her. She's become a prominent symbol as a defender of the French nation. This happened both in World War I and World War II. As a womanly hero, there are 10 sculptures of her worldwide, including 7 here in the United States. As a very progressive feminist country, this really speaks to her societal influence outside of her own country. She has been described as representing the best qualities of both sexes. She heeded her inner experience, fought for what she believed in, and encouraged others to do the same. As a saint and martyr, she has been beatified, which is when the Pope declares that she has attained heaven, that she is everlasting life, just perfect. She has also been canonized, which is to say that that means that the church believes that she did speak with God. She is a prophet. Many paintings depicting Joan speaking with angels exist as well. And on March 22nd, 1922, Joan was named the secondary patron saint of France. Her cultural reaches, France versus other countries, the earliest known work is a poem during her lifetime, Chanson and the Honor de Joan of Arc by Christine de Pizan. Many plays have been written as well. Henry VI, Part 1 by William Shakespeare. In this play, she is initially pious and later revealed to be a devious witch. This was actually the only work I could find that painted Joan in a bad light, and the timing makes sense as it was written in 1590, not too long after the end of the 100 Years' War, when the two countries weren't on such great terms anymore. Another play, Saint Joan of the Stockyards by German playwright Bertolt Brecht, was inspired by Upton Sinclair's The Jungle. It came out in the 1920s. It really speaks to her influence as a leader. It depicts her as a Union leader in Chicago stockyards. Many songs mention Joan of Arc. A couple, to name a few, the Big Mouth Strikes Again by the Smiths. It has the lyrics, "And now I know how Joan of Arc felt, as the flames rose to her Roman nose and her Walkman began to melt." This is reference to how Joan was persecuted for her words and beliefs during her lifetime. The song Thou by Garbage pokes fun at her unfortunate fate with the line, "You burn me out, but I'm back for more. I'm back at your door, like Joan of Arc coming back for more." So, in conclusion, there's some differences in how French and American culture depict Joan. More than anything else, Joan's story shows how similar our two cultures are than we realize. Idolizing a poor peasant girl who made the most of her situation and gave back to France appeals to both cultures. Americans of a great rag to riches story. In the French, we don't care as much for that aspect, but hold her in high regard for becoming something bigger than herself and being able to lead their nation with her gift. Although Joan is one of the most enduring figures in French history, her biggest selling point is how she was able to represent something much bigger than herself. And actually, because of her ties to the Catholic Church and the king, after the Revolution, the French stopped celebrating her for a few years. It was Napoleon himself who brought back the love of Joan. Joan's reaches nowadays are far, and she's even become the mascot of France's National Front, the far-right nationalist party led by Marine Le Pen. Both cultures, however, are very impressed by what she was able to accomplish in her short life, the love of the story, of rising against oppression, and fighting for how things should be rather than how they are. Looking at all the depictions of Joan in French, the US, and worldwide, it is clear she is not only a national figure of France, sticking up for them 500 years ago, nor is she only a US feminist icon, known for being one of the strongest women in history, but a worldwide hero, known for her bravery and sacrifice. Sources: